Welcome to Campfire Chat with Alaska Chick. That would be me. When we tried to lock the dogs in tonight, it didn't work. So, tonight, Master Guide Terry Overley is going to be with us, and we are going to talk about trapping. Okay? When did you start trapping?
I started trapping about 1959.
Before you came into
Before I
Shoshana?
came into Shoshana. It was outside of Birchwood, matter of fact, kind of close to Anchorage. Muskrats.
Running dogs.
Running dogs.
When did you start running dogs? At that time?
I started running dogs about 1957.
57?
Yeah. 57, yeah. Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, well. Anyways. Shh. Fur trapping has been around since ancient times, and millions of people depend on fur trapping for their livelihood. In Alaska, trapping has always been part of the lifeblood of commerce and the economy.
Okay, so to do kind of like a little follow-up with Alaska Chick, aka Amber, her campfire chat on trapping, I'm going to show you how to set a trap.
This looks like a good spot to set a couple marten traps. We've been cutting wood out here, and there's a link track to that hole. Beans marten eat squirrels. And as you can see, there's a heck of a lot of tracks in here. Alright, we got our pole. We'll build a little flat spot like that. Leaning up against this tree, which is way plenty big to catch a marten. They're not very big critters. I'm going to take these gloves off. And marten don't really care about human scent. Find out reading some of your trapping books, I'm sorry to say. Maybe it depends on the particular country that you're trapping in, but really don't make a lot of difference to the critters up here, because I guess they don't relate human beings to anything being dangerous because they're just not around human beings enough. We're going to start this off with a fence staple in here, like this. And this will actually last for years. Marten is a very big critter. If you're really concerned about it, once in a while, you get a link, wolverine and something like this, but wolverine won't stay here very long. The link might, so then we'll put a wire around the trap. Early in the morning before the sun came up, just getting dawn, get your dogs ready, and then you would take off and you start doing trapping. And I go feed the horses, cross the river, check my trap lines, and then turn around and come back. Dogs average about 7 miles an hour, a good dog team. And so,
yeah, well, I'm laughing because our horses average about 3 miles an hour. A man can outwalk a horse. I didn't realize that dogs were that much faster though.
they are, yeah, about 7 miles an hour.
Wow.
For a dog team. And then you can just bring your little pan up there, and then I always take and push the trigger forward. You'll see the pan come down, and you can pick this up, just this jaw, and then you can kind of hair set it a little bit. Right further back there, hair set it a little bit. Sometimes they'll snap on you. It doesn't hurt anything, it just means you're getting hair set. And you set them like that, and they really, you want ultimately your chain to kind of help hold this like that on the tree. You can set it right there. Try to pull your jaw down if it will allow that. So if the marten comes up like this and happens to stand on it, it's not going to be freaky. We're going to put our scent like up about here, a little more than a foot, 13, 14 inches, because marten are kind of like this. long. You want him to get up here and sniff around and get it with his back feet or possibly front feet. And so we're going to take right about here, make a simple little notch in the tree like that in a couple of places. And you can see it doesn't take much to get that trap to go off, which is cool. And then we're going to put this back up here. One of the favorite trap lines that I have was the one that would go from here all the way down to King City, which is 30 miles down the river. Normally I would have to stop about halfway down, and I'd make a camp with the dogs.
Kind of where we camp now? About halfway?
About halfway down. Yeah.
Where that finger comes out?
No, actually it was this side. And so that was a good spot where the timber that was there afforded protection from the wind, and it was good spruce trees, and I would make dog mush every time that I went with them. We didn't have a can of Friskies we opened up and fed our dogs. And so we had...
Bummer for you.
Yeah, we had dog pans and cornmeal mush, and then if I caught a link or something like that, I would skin it and cut it up and throw it in with the dog mush and feed the dogs. But I left all that stuff there. I left the sleeping bag there and left the dog pans and everything so the dogs knew where we were going and what we were doing, and then I would just stay there. You just pull up in the trees and camp out. It doesn't matter how cold it is, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing, because it was immaterial. Then the next morning you'd get up and go all the way down to King City, but King City wasn't there then. Then we'll get our scent like this. And this is a concoction that I've made for years and years and years and years. It's beaver castor in actually the old green mint and aftershave lotion. That keeps it from freezing, and it gets the smell going. Beaver castor. I'll take and I'll make brown sugar, mix it up along, crunched up with the beaver castor, and some mint and aftershave lotion. Or you can tear up toilet paper or napkins if you don't, just for filler, and stuff in there and just pull it out. And then it's funny what critters really will like. And you can just take and get a dip of this stuff, and it doesn't take much. Something like that. And believe me, I can smell it, and those critters are going to smell it 500 yards away. And then we're just going to put it right in here like that. And you can even leave the stick if you want, if you just don't want to get it off there. Break the stick off, and you want to squish your wood in there because the birds are going to fly around. Not going to have too many places to land, but a lot of the birds are going to just hang onto the bark, and they kind of like that stuff.
Fur trapping is carried out for a variety of reasons. Food, clothing, medicines. What else?
Commerce.
Commerce, yes.
Okay, we're going to set the snare here. Snares are something that you need to set it where it's camoed in the brush. And a lot of animals, such as wolves especially, won't run down the snow machine trail if they think that there's trees there. Wolves don't usually run through timber, but if they do and you find the right spot and they have a trail there, well then it's going to be a good deal.
Why don't you tell everybody what we can trap out here?
Okay, what we can trap right here in the Shoshana Valley is we can trap lynx, marten, mink, muskrats, wolf, wolverine, coyotes, fox.
Three color phases of
Three
fox.
color phases of fox, but it's the same fox. It's a red fox, but they have color phases. Red fox, obviously, and then they have silver fox, which is kind of a dark colored black fox, mostly.
Beautiful.
Very, very, very beautiful.
And the cross fox.
And the cross fox. Here's kind of what we're going to do. We come in here, we put our snare together, And this is this little lock like that, and it pulls in, and that will stay just very tight. And then we try to camouflage the rest of our cable if it's necessary. Sometimes it's not, and you just use the brush as your friend.
Alright. What's your favorite memory of trapping? The coolest thing that ever happened while you were trapping?
I don't know, I think one of them at least was I set a bunch of traps. I had a lot of wolves across the river, and I set one big trapping set there. I think had 7 or 8 traps set, and I ended up catching 5 wolves in one whack. And so that's a pretty good bunch of wolves, and that was interesting.
See, I got my pin set, and it's making it to the point that the critter follows my tracks all the way up into here, and he has no choice other than to step right on my trap.
And you don't want the snare to be so big that he's going to get his legs through it. Try to use the natural environment, if at all possible, to get it to hold still. You don't want to put too many sticks and stuff that don't belong there, because they will pay attention. The thing with snares is you want to set a bunch of them, because you never know. You absolutely never know where your critter is going to come in from or which direction. It was in the spring, and I was feeding horses again, and I went across the river, and I had the seasons on fox and link and wolverine are different wolves, and they were then, back in those days. And so I ended up catching a fox I didn't want to because it was pretty springy, and when it gets right around March, April, depending on the temperature, when the snow starts to, the sun gets hot enough that the snow starts to melt a little bit and the fox lay down, well then their hair, their guard hair will freeze into the snow. When they stand up, it pulls it out, so they start losing their guard hair and turning, see gray on their hips and everything. You can't sell them. And so anyway, I caught a really, really, really pretty cross fox, and I just decided I was going to keep him for a pet. He just got caught, he wasn't hurt, so I caught him, watered him up in my park there and tied him in the dog sled, brought him back, and I was living in a little...
In the meat cache,
yeah, I was living in the meat cache, but it was on the ground. It wasn't a meat cache yet. I think it was an
with
8 by 12. Huh?
With your bitch?
Yeah.
From your top dogs?
Yeah, my lead dog, Princess, had pups, and so her pups were in there, and they were just...
And he was in the meat house, and he had manny tarps around it, and that's where he spent the winter.
Yeah, and I had the little fox tied to the corner with a little bitty collar. Their necks aren't that big, and I always tried to gentle it down. You could pet it if you put your hand under its chin, but if you tried to put your hand on top of its head, it'd bite you every time. So it's under the chin type deal.
Did it hurt?
Yeah, it did hurt, so I wore my gloves. But
well,
anyway,
I mean, is it like Toots biting you?
Or similar. Except,
worse?
Yeah, well, the fox bites harder. Toots could bite harder, but she doesn't. And so anyway, one day
Toots is his puppy.
Yeah, one day I went to feed the horses, left my little fox in there, and I had little husky pups, and they'd gotten a little bit bigger, and so I, pulled the sled up and gonna start undoing my dogs, and I heard the little pups inside just barking and raising hell, and so I went in there, and they had they were pig piling that little red fox.
Oh.
And they're just all over him, just their tails were wagging, and they were
getting him. But they thought it was big fun.
Yeah, they wasn't hurting him, but I was amazed that he didn't hurt them, because he had the ability to really...
A little male?
Yeah, he could have crunched him, but
he
didn't. Oh yeah.
No, see, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have guessed that. They were that little?
He lives with his teeth, and they don't. And so, yeah, he was older, and
he could have done what needed to be done to protect
he could have
himself,
hurt him
and he
pretty
didn't.
bad. Yeah, but he didn't. He just let him wool him up.
Oh my! Did you let him go?
Then I
After
turned
that,
him loose. Yeah,
couldn't do it.
Nah, I just took him down to the river and turned him loose by the shooting range, and he ran off and stopped a little bit, turned around and looked at me for a while, and then he just took off.
See ya.
See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.
Probably not.
And if one wolf got caught and got detained, the others would circle around and mess around until they decided that he wasn't going to be able to come with them. And in the process of doing that, you very well may catch another 2 or 3 or 4. And so this is pretty much, you don't put anything for scent. You don't put anything that is going to be obvious as to what you're doing. And normally you would take this and pull it very tight here, but we'd put it up higher or wrap it around something. But the wolf would tighten this up on his own when he hits his snare. There's 2 or 3 different ways that you can do it. Different people do everything different. But the less you can mess around with your environment, especially for a wolf, the better off you're going to be.
When you came to Shoshana, you were trapping with dogs and running dog teams.
Yes, I was.
What did that entail? I mean, was that like being gone for a couple hours? Was that being gone for a couple days? What was that?
It would depend on where we were going. Is that if I was just going to go over and check the trap line, I'd be gone for a few hours, maybe most of the day. And you have to understand in the wintertime, like it is now, your daylight hours are pretty
Alright, so
short.
after you limb your tree to about 4 feet, you put some baling wire around it, just kind of as a cautionary so that they don't run off with your trap.
What else can you tell us? What do you need to get started trapping? Say Eric in Washington wants to start a trap line. He's never done it. What does he have to go buy first? What does he need first?
I'd say traps.
Traps or
Yeah.
snares, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, traps, snares, but most things you can catch with traps. Snares are good for wolves. You can catch a link. You can catch a lot of things with snares, almost anything, but it's unnecessary. Snares are something you can set in the brush, and they're not so obvious. They're pretty inconspicuous, and wolves pay an awful lot of attention to things like that, whereas link and coyotes and fox usually don't. And so
And that's why you'd use them for wolves.
that's why I use them for wolves, is
Because they're curious.
well, for a couple of reasons. Is because wolves will actually tear your traps up. They eat the springs. I mean, they'll smash a spring down flat on a number 4 Victor. They'll take the chain and just smash it down to where the links won't even twist. I mean, I've seen them do that. And your snare. Wolves are a pack animal.
Sky tonight. That's why I keep looking up.
Yeah, well, anyway, wolves are a pack animal, and so usually you won't just have one going someplace by itself. There'll be 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that, at least 3 or 4. And so you have a good chance when you set snares. You want to set them. You want to find a trail that they go through, and then you set numerous snares in there. Because if you catch one, well, then the others are going to hang around, and so you try to figure out,
how they're going to turn and
where
go.
they're going to turn and come, and how they're going to do it. And so that's the part about setting snares.
The strategy.
It's a strategy.
Okay, so we need traps or snares. What else do we need?
We need some scent, probably a little bit of trapping scent. You can get that from, I'm not sure where anymore. We usually get it from a place called Hawbakers, and I'm sure you can order it. I think.
Wire, chain.
Yeah. You need chain, like heavy dog chain. You can cut it in the length that you want, if you want to extend the chain on your traps. Used to traps, all traps had 6 foot of chain on them, and now bins. America's America. The chain's about this long.
All right. Okay.
Is that long? But anyway.
Gloves, wire.
It depends on where you're at. Yeah, wire, gloves.
What else do you need? I don't know.
You know, some people might need a trap setter, you know, to help them push the springs down, but when you trap a lot, you don't need that. You just scritch them down and set them. And so,
I've seen you, you know, I've been with you a lot when you're setting traps, but I've never done it myself. But I've seen you put them in bags, or lay a little bit of plastic on it,
well,
like saran wrap or something.
yeah, setting a trap is a whole different deal. Depends on the country you're going to be in. If you're going to be in a country where there's snow, well, then you trap a little different than a country where there isn't any. You still want to conceal the trap. You want to conceal the trap with the same type of foliage or environment that you're putting the trap in. And you don't want to put it too much of anything on top of it or on top of the pan. When you get it set, you make it a hair trigger. And you may not know this, but a lot of states where they're doing trapping is that they have some type of a regulation where the pan, the way that the trap is built is that you have to have like a 4-pound.
I read that actually when I was doing the research
like
for this chat tonight.
Yeah.
I did read that. I didn't go into it, but some states have a pound limit. So like your pet Fido can't set off a big conibear or something.
Yeah, it's probably something like that, where you have to trap for specific animals, and
They
like if you're trying to catch wolf, well then you wouldn't catch a marten, or
Right.
you wouldn't catch possibly a fox, and a lot of times you probably wouldn't catch the wolf either because he's just gonna not get caught. And
After you get your trap tied to the tree, you put it in a bag here so that your springs won't get frozen. After you put your bag in your trap, you kind of sprinkle some snow over it, try to make it camouflaged, and then you set your direction for the critter you were trying to trap.
All right, that's enough. I had all these things I was going to tell you, but you know what? I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you more later. Because I keep making these great big long videos and they're killing my bandwidth. So, thank you. Make sure you leave me a question at the end so I can do more of these. All right? It's March. That means you've only got a couple more months before we call a halt to this fun for the summer. And what else? You got anything to say?
I have a lot to say, but we don't have time to say it. And so, anyway, I guess what we have to say is good night.
Good night.
Just
Bye.
to show you that the trap won't really hurt you, but it's gonna hurt no matter what. So, here goes. See? I mean, my fingers are caught in it. I can't get out. The only way you can really get out, I mean, you better be strong enough to do the do the springs with just one hand. So,
There we go.
that's getting your hand caught in the trap and getting it back out.
Loving free and feeling the spirit, hugging a tree when you get near it, digging the snow and the rain and the bright sunshine.